Parashat Pekudei. Parashat Pekudei. Of course, I always want to welcome on board our dear friends from all over the world, all over the country. Among them, Trina and Lizzie Oliveira from Brazil. Alô, como vai? And yet everybody else is here and wherever you are. Parashat Pekudei is the sixth portion of Sefer Shmot, of the book of Exodus, and really concludes the description of building the Mishkan, building the tabernacle, and all its utensils and all its apparatus inside of it. Also, the dedication, the donation of the Jews for building that tabernacle. So in this parasha, in this portion, after all the instructions were given of how to build everything in it, there is again a repetition with a tremendous specification of how to do it, and every detail in the process is documented very, very carefully, and the emphasis is on the complete obedience to how to do the work, how to do it, that came from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It came from God. So they were very careful about that. There are many points of reference, or points to think of in this parasha. Among them, some of them, I would say, even somewhat revolutionary in terms of the new ideas and new concept in them. For example, in Parashat Pekudei, we could look at the concept of the word itself, Pekud. Pekud, in Hebrew, the root of the word is Pei Kuv Dalet, Pakad. Well, it could mean many things. As we learned, right, when Hashem Pakad et Sarah, what it could be?
You remember.
Remembering, but also, how do we say a commander in Hebrew?
Mafkid.
No, Mefaked. Mafkid is depositing, right? But Mefaked is a commander. So the word Pekud, with its meaning behind it, and of course on the essence or the idea of cooperation and so-called taking collective responsibility, is in a way a new concept that we see in this week's portion. The word Pekud, or Pekudei, or the root of Pei Kuv Daled, appears many times in this parasha, and mainly describes all the details that was given by command from God to Moshe Rabbeinu, as his representative, right? Of how to do it and how to build it, and as we said before, it seems like it is the word Pekud is a word that really usually comes to make us think of control, on power, on doing, actions and so on and so forth, from a external point of view, as like an external commandment. But there is a fundamental new idea here in the word Pekudei that also could be as an invitation for us to command our own self. In other words, to be in charge of ourselves, to be in charge of our reality, to do something to every one of us, to give him the chance to be a part of this great mission of building the tabernacle, building the Mishkan. So it's not just for the general group, but also for the actual individuals to take control and to take charge and to be a part. And we'll see how it comes out of. This revolution, or this new idea, is really embedded in the fact that each and every one of us, each and every one of the Jews, is asked to take personal responsibility on his donation to build the Mishkan, to build the tabernacle. And every detail in this great project is considered to be important, vital, and extremely meaningful. You can't skip any of it. There is no coding, there is no hiding of anything. Everything is out there in the open. Everything that everybody did personally is being written and described. We know that when they would bring something, right, they would say, oh, so-and-so brought this, so-and-so brought that. They would make the announcement that everybody would know. Because it's important that everybody would know. Why is that? Not to say, oh, wow, look how much this guy gave. It's not that. It's to show that everybody is a part of this whole entire thing. Another point in this parasha is the idea of collective responsibility and cooperation, full cooperation. And that's something that is very applicable to our days today. In this week's parasha, each and every one of us gives his donation, his personal donation to build it, but not only from a materialistic point of view, another financial or whatever there will be, but also from a spiritual point of view. The spiritual aspect of that as well. All the donations and all the materials are gathered together to create one creation, one entity, one apparatus. And this system of working together really creates a synergy. Like a thing that we all do together as a group. It's a system of cooperation, which in our society we don't have. We don't have an operation like this. The only place that it might exist is in a military. That's why, supposedly and hopefully, the military, when it's not based on individual promotion and so on and so forth, operates much better as a functioning society than a regular secular society or civilian society. And we must remember that. Creates also a system of ideas, of exchange of ideas, of contributing ideas and actions. That complete partnership in building the Mikdash really gives a powerful message that of how each and every detail or person or individual in Am Yisrael is important, and how each and every one of us would have, not only could, but also would have an effect on the end result of what will happen to us in the end. The spiritual meaning is, as I told you many times, no Jew left behind. We don't leave anybody behind. Each and every one gives something from himself, but not only that, but also gives his heart and his effort for one unified effort, or one unified purpose. The educational idea behind this is that a system of cooperation and collaboration is that what makes the Mishkan. And listen to me very carefully. That system of including everybody, and everybody chips in, everybody, as they say, goes under the stretcher. That what makes the Mishkan holy. That's what makes it holy. That's what gives it true holiness. And the meaning is that from each and every one we could benefit, and every one from us is, of course, important in a condition that each and every one of us would be willing to be a part of that. We should, if somebody wants to be a part, we should make the room and make the space for him. We say, I'm sorry, we're too busy, we can't have you. So this is on us as a group to accept anybody that wants to come and join us building, and it's also a personal obligation of each and every one of us to be a part of something great. Because, and of course, we need to allow people to come closer. We shouldn't push people away. We should let people in and let people collaborate with us and be partners with us. From a spiritual point of view, it gives us a tremendous understanding of how spirituality could really manifest itself in this physical world that we at. The Mishkan, the tabernacle, dwells inside a materialistic world, in a world of substance and matter that we can feel, we can see, and so on and so forth. But not only it is a physical structure. The Mishkan, the tabernacle, was not just a physical structure, but it was an apparatus, a vessel that represents the connection between physical and spiritual and all detail. And every item in the Mishkan, every item, everything in the Mishkan had a deep spiritual meaning to it. There is a meaning in everything, and why it was done like this, and how it was done, and so on and so forth. In this parasha, which, as I said to you before, it's quite revolutionary, is that really shows us that the connection between the physical and the spiritual is a very important value. It's a very important value, and we need to understand that. Now, the appropriate meaning of that is that even into physical vessels, right, that are material, in that, call it reality, the physical reality and the everyday mundane reality, we can find a connection to true spirituality and to its original and superior purpose. Each and every item that was brought as a truma, as a donation to that, even if it seems by itself completely disconnected and not belonging by itself, once you include it, it becomes holy. It gets its meaning. In other words, it gets its meaning of holiness from being a part of this overall thing. Yes, you could have given your own gold tooth if you had to. You're going to tell me, for crying out loud, a gold tooth? I don't think they had gold teeth at the time, but let's say you don't understand what I'm saying. By itself, it's just gold tooth. It's repulsing. But when you include it, because the intent was behind it, that could become a part of the menorah, or become part of the shulchan, or the mizbeach, or whatever it is. But only when it's included. Now you think about this very, very carefully. Both in what is happening into among us. Again, it bothers me to no end how we comfortably and without even blinking of an eye divide our own selves into groups, into segments, into as I said to you before, Sfaradim, Ashkenazim, Hasidim, Yeshivish, Mishivish, modern Orthodox, primitive Orthodox. I don't like that. This is how we lose our Kedusha. In Israel, it's even more severe. That's how we lose the Kedusha. That's how we lose holiness. That's why it's very important, for example, to keep traditions that you had, even if they don't make sense to you. For example, the concept of, let's say for the Sephardim not to eat fish and lox and how do you call this? Lox and cheese, lox and cream cheese. I don't know what's the big deal about it, but let's say, right? So you can argue whatever you want to argue. You can argue it's a typo. You can argue it's not true. You can whatever. However, this is something that we do. This is something that the Jews have been doing for hundreds, if not thousands of years. But you disconnecting yourself from that, you cutting the branch in which you're sitting on, in which you're actually nourishing, because your nourishment comes from your connection to the tree. At one time, what's his name? Yeshayahu Libowitz. He was a big opposer of Kabbalah, And they said to him, being such a, opposing to Kabbalah, do you say Brich Shmei when they take the Sefer Torah out on days they take the Sefer Torah out? He said, of course I do. He said, what do you mean? I mean, you claim that the Zohar was whatever, and it was. I said, how do you say that? He said to him, Jews for hundreds of years been saying that. Who am I not to? Okay, who am I not to? That's something that we do. That is wanting to be a part of the klal. This is how you get the holiness as an individual. Judaism, you get the kedusha of yourself by being a part of something, or wanting to be a part of something, not sitting in a cave something and doing bizarre things, or thinking you know everything, you discover the world, you don't have to associate with anybody. That's the Kedusha, that's the Chidush, that's a new concept in this week's parasha. And many times, and more than once, we find ourselves in a struggle between Kedusha from holiness in that comes from us being in this physical world. So if in the past the idea of let's say a holy place like the temple in Jerusalem was only served for specific people, specific groups, like for example, Kohanim could enter places that a Levi cannot, and a Levi can enter a place that a Jew cannot, a regular Israel cannot. Right, so they were sacred. Today, since we don't have the Mishkan, as it seems in this parasha, comes the Torah and teaches us that the whole Am Israel, the whole group of the people of the Jews, when they decide to put together, they're taking a part in fulfilling that place that we call holy. We could achieve the same level of holiness if we only unite together, be willing to include everybody, and yet want to be a part of everything. Every piece of gold, every precious stone, every piece of cloth that they brought in the Mishkan radiates holiness. The holiness is not being measured by how much effort or how big your donation was, but rather in the fact that it was given from everybody together to create that holy place. And that place, by doing so, sanctifies the whole nation. If you, for example, think that the laws of, let's say, Tumah and Tahara are just an intellectual, exercise, well, you could think whatever you want. But don't come and tell me later on that it's not real. Because if Tum'ah is not real, Kedusha is just not as real. Because holiness and unholiness, purity and impurity were created equally. Your job is to decide. Your job, and if you go into the realm of quantum physics and the concept of multiple universes, right, you would understand that the world that you live in is the world in which you made that decision to be in, and the decision that you didn't make, that you could have made, that exists in a different world, but you have no shayachut to it because this is where you live. You made the decision of Kedusha and Tahara. So as much as impurity is real, holiness is real. And if you're telling me that it's not, if you're telling me that impurity, Tum'ah, is just an intellectual concept, therefore Kedusha is, and for that matter I will tell you, you have a problem, because Kedusha comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, the Holy Ones. And if you tell me holiness is an intellectual concept, therefore for you God is no more than an intellectual concept. Don't tell me you believe in God. Is that understood? So, and every truma, every donation that we give, you guys are late. You like El Al. You know what El Al stands for? Late. Every landing, always late. Yeah, that's what El Al stands for. Believe me, I'm right. You see that they live up to their name. Anyway, every donation helps to reach a higher peak of holiness. That's why if you don't feel holiness, maybe you don't want to be a part of the klal. Maybe you want to be separated. If you don't feel Kedusha in you, you don't want to be a part of the klal. The problem is not with the group. The problem is with you that you don't want to be a part of it. That's why you don't feel Kedusha. That's why you don't feel holiness. And it's a big lesson for us to learn. The same thing if you go to a place, you don't feel Kedusha there. It means that it's not the place for you to be, or the place that you don't want to be in. And if you don't want to be placed in someone, you're not going to feel holiness. The same thing as if you don't want to be with your spouse, you cannot tell me that you feel holy or you love your spouse. It goes together. The manifestation of love is the concept of one, is the concept of holiness. And that's why we say Bait Ne'eman b'Yisrael is Bait on Emunah, and Emunah only comes from a state of Kedusha. You cannot be a believing person when you act in unholiness, in unpure way, or you don't believe in holiness. Because all your actions will be vapor. They're all external. You might think you're Jewish, but you're no more than culturally Jewish. Being a Jew is being a part of something greater, and wanting to do it, and understanding that you have to be a part of something great. And if you don't want to contribute, and you think it's all intellectual level, or intellectual exercise, do me a favor, go to college, go teach philosophy. But don't call yourself a Jew, or a believing Jew. The parasha represents us, first of all, again, it's a revolutionary idea in educational understanding and educational spirituality of unity and cooperation, of personal donation and wanting to give, and the necessity to include everybody, and the power of every individual to be a part of this great thing. Jewish nation, through each and every one of us that donates to the Mikdash, shows us how spirituality can really manifest itself in this physical world. And Parashat Pekudei is not just the end of the process of building the Mishkan, of building the tabernacle, but rather a new idea that invites us to understand the deep meaning of cooperating with everybody, being a part of something greater and doing things together in unity in order to reach a spiritual fulfillment in this world. And that's a very important point to remember. If you want to go, you want me to add a little bit Kabbalistic concept to the matter? Yeah, you do? Yeah? Who doesn't believe in Kabbalah here? Good, everybody does. Chickens. Because if you don't, I'll rip you into pieces, but yeah. In order to add a Kabbalistic dimension to this parasha, we could look, for example, at the symbolism that the parasha, that appears in this parasha, and the spiritual essence of building the Mikdash through a connection to what we call the light, to the light of the Torah, to what is hidden from us. And it really is how we use the Mishkan, the tabernacle, as a channel to allow the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu come to this world. Again, today, since we don't have a temple and we don't have the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the only way for us to bring God's light to this world is through unity and willing to contribute and to be a part of the klal. In the Kabbalistic tradition, the Mishkan seems, as I said to you, as a channel, as a pipe, as a vessel that connects the physical world with the spiritual world. Not the other way around. We need to connect, because without the connection to the spiritual world in this world, we are basically on extended life support. So we need to make sure to connect this to this, to bring this world up, not that just world down. As the same as the Sferot in Etz HaChaim connects or allows us to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the world here of creation and so on and so forth, also the Mishkan turns up to be, in a way, a sphera, a realm by itself of divine revelation in the physical reality. According to the Kabbalah, the Mishkan represents what we call the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is the representation of God in the world. It's not a separate entity, it's just a representation of God in this world. In Parashat Pekudei, that really describes all the donations that we had, really shows us on the tremendous divine abundance, the Shefa Eloki that was given to each and every one of us, and really gives the message of light that comes from a higher place and goes into the reality of the murk reality of matter, and which is human materialism. Each and every vessel in the Mishkan really gets a meaning as another channel who brings down God's light from this world down to this earth here. In this parasha, there is a tremendous focusing on, let's say, on the material, on gold and other materials that represents the Kabbalistic understanding of connection of matter to spirit, or spirit to matter, whichever way you want to go. For example, as Rabbi Chaim Vital says, gold is portrayed in Kabbalah as a symbolism for Ein Sof, for endless, for infinity, to the divine light which is pure, that has no end. The connection of gold with the physical material, right, is in a way a effort to bring down the light to this world, to connect it to this world, and from here, vessels like the Aron, the Ark of Covenant, the menorah, the candelabra, and so on and so forth, represents divine representation in our world as well. Now you can take this and understand why certain objects in the Mishkan were actually wood covered with gold, or wood covered with copper, and so on and so forth. Now you could, I'll give you the tools and you do whatever you want with it. Wood, on the other hand, represents life. Wood represents life because it's a living matter, represents life and the essence of our reality. Where when he gets the covering of gold, that really represents the elevation of matter to spirit, the sanctification of the world, the physical world, and turned this world, this reality, into a vessel that's able to contain God's light. So each and every one of us is like this. In Kabbalah, the whole concept of tikkun, what we call tikkun, fixing up, the tikkun olam, hey, the two masters, the tikkun olam. Guys, there's children here. I know you guys hungry, you just came from a hard karate lesson, so pound the children here. That, of course, our dear friend Idan, he's the children administrator. So when what we call the tikkun olam is really elevation, lifting up our physical world towards a higher spiritual existence or reality. We need to bring it to this reality. And when we say to bring that, that means also bring yourself. You should, listen, you could do whatever you want, but it will be quite beneficial for you to really be able to elevate yourself to a higher spiritual awareness, to try to live spiritual. Don't be so intellectual, because when you're becoming too intellectual, you are doing it probably to get some standing ovation, because people will say how smart you are. I'm not quite sure if you want to be super, and don't tell me you are the Rambam, because you're not. But if you're going to be too philosophical about things, intellectual maybe is not the right word, but too philosophical about things, I think you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for any other purpose. Become spiritual. Put some life into the statue in which you created to make it into a living entity. Otherwise, it's just a statue. It's not even a golem. When we gather all the objects of the Mishkan and we bring it to the designated place, that's a symbolism of a process of tikkun, where everything physical, every donation, every material, and so on and so on, every substance was given to a specific holy mission. And that becomes a vessel to express God's interaction with the world. And that's why everything in the Mishkan is in perfect order, to tell you that there is perfect order in the universe. Even what seems to us as chaotic is very orderly. That's why the menorah has to be in one place, and the shulchan in another place, and you don't move things around. It's there for a reason. It will also be very difficult for you to become holy when you're scattered all over the place or you're living in a mess. You need to create order in your life. And that's very important. The Kabbalah teaches us on the essence of light that fills the Mishkan, that in a way that this light is really the spiritual meaning or the spiritual aspect or deep aspect of everything in this world, of everything that exists in this world. Everything has a spiritual meaning. But here especially, in building the Mishkan, when we build the tabernacle, the divine light, which was really imprisoned into this, in the physical world, really come out to the light. Everything is, the divine light is here with us also. We just need to reveal it. So the Mishkan was a place to reveal this light so it would shine and reflect on us. Because without it, we are dull. We need to have reflecting light on us so we could shine and guide the way to other people. Again, the only way we do this today is through one thing, is through unity, through selflessness, not through selfishness. And we need to remember that. The word Pikud in Parashat Pekudei also gets a Kabbalistic meaning. Pikud in the Kabbalistic mindset really refers to the divine light that really guides the whole entire creation. The direct intervention of God and every detail in this world, whether we understand it or not. When the Torah talks about Pekudei, it really points out on specific orders that come to us from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and through that brings about the divine light to our world. And every action of what we call Pikud, right, is in a way a mission of the divine light that really guides this world not to basically get lost. And a person that does that Pikud, that fulfills this order, in a way becomes a collaborator with the divine's will, with God's will. And he becomes a vessel that spreads the light in this world, in this darkness of it. In other words, when I fulfill the halacha, when I keep the halacha, the halacha of the mitzvot were giving us for that and that reason. When I don't want to keep halacha, I don't want to be in a way a part of creation. I don't want to be a partner of God. I don't want to bring light to this world. Why would you do that? Most of the time because you're arrogant. Halacha is God's word. And that's how the light comes down. In the Mishkan, as we said, there are many details, many objects. There are mats over there. There's the covenant, the Ark of Covenant. There's the candelabra, the altar, and each and every one of them has, as I said to you before, a specific spiritual representation and a job. Each one of them is connected to a specific sfera in the tree of life. The Aron, the Holy Ark, is in a holy place, the holiest place, that really represents the sfera of crown, of Keter, which is the secret of God's will in this world. The menorah with the candelabra with the seven candles in it represents the lights of chokhmah, of wisdom. That's why it says if you want to reach a certain level of chokhmah, you contemplate on the menorah and whatever comes to it, and so on and so forth. I'm not getting into this now. But that represents chokhmah. The mizbeach of the Ktoret, the incense altar, represents the sfera of tiferet, which is the middle, right? The right here in the middle, which is the essence of divine beauty in this world. So we need to understand. The Kabbalah teaches us that each and every part of the Mishkan is not a physical object, but also a symbol for a spiritual dimension and meaning to it, behind it. And you should know every action that we do, every choice that we make, whether it's physical choice or spiritual choice, any choice that we make creates a reality. And we should be aware that those decisions, those actions are meant for one thing and one thing only: reveal God and His light in this world, to make this place worthy for God to dwell in. Just like the afikomen, in Pesach that we hide. Okay, the Sfaradim don't do it, but just the afikomen that we hide, and we need to bring it we need to so-called find it. So is God's world around us. Don't surrender to the darkness and say, this is dark, there's no hope, there's no this, there's no that. But rather say, there is light. I just need to find it. Bikashti et she'ahava nafshi. I was looking for what my soul, my beloved, soul was looking for. Chipasti matzati et she'ahava nafshi. I was looking and I found it. You need to look for this light. You need to be able to find it in everything and everyone. Parashat Pekudei, with this concentration, the focusing on the Mishkan and everything else, is also a Kabbalistic model of how this world really could become a way to fix this world, even though it's not, by revealing the light. And as I said to you before, everything has a spiritual meaning. That you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. It's there, you just don't see it. And every person could and should be a part of this, belonging to this effort of making this world into a better place, to a world in which God's light is coming in. Not just like the Tower of Babel, but rather like in Bet HaMikdash, that it was, and to fulfill what we were meant to be, Or LaGoyim, light to the nations. How we can do so? By following God's will, not our will. Sheyeh retzoncha retzono. You have to do that. Your will is going to be, that God's will is going to be your will and not the other way around. This is how we do it, Rabotai. And this is as real can get. Those concepts are more real than our reality, than you and me. Because this concept is all about bringing HaKadosh Baruch Hu to this world. So, Rabotai, roll your sleeves. There's a lot of work to do. But Baruch Hashem, thank God we have this work to do, that we can do it. And I wish all of you to be more selfless, less selfish, more loving and accepting of one another. And whatever we should do should be glory to God, glory to Hashem. Shabbat Shalom.
Amen.